A new law recently signed by Governor Janet Mills protects domestic violence victims from their abusers who secure an early release from jail.
It essentially requires authorities to notify survivors of that release, and it ensures that an inmate is not a threat before they're allowed to enter a community monitoring program. News Center Maine's Vivian Lee spoke with a domestic violence survivor who says the protections are key to her survival.
Nicole Aprone says the warning signs in her marriage started 5 years ago, shortly after her oldest daughter was born.
A lot of intimidation. He would get mad at very little things.
Nicole says her husband began isolating her from her friends. She and her young girls were also cut off from her mother and grandmother. He also attacked her physically, and one day it went too far.
And he had his hands wrapped around my neck as well. So this is not going to end well if I stay.
Nicole's husband was arrested and charged with domestic assault, but her peace was very short-lived.
He was in jail for like a few hours. I had taken the kids and we were hiding.
Because he was a first-time offender, he was allowed to plead no contest in exchange for taking part in a certified batterer's intervention program.
I ask you to consider the voices of survivors here today.
Earlier this spring, Nicole joined more than a half-dozen survivors in testifying before a legislative committee for a proposal that sets new restrictions for domestic abuse offenders who are eligible for an early release after serving a third of their sentence. Patricia McLean, a domestic violence survivor and founder of Finding Our Voices, pushed for the legislation after hearing from a survivor who discovered through social media her abuser, who had been in jail, was back on the street.
She didn't even know he was out. She thought she had a little time when she had some safety and could prepare for his release.
The bill signed into law in May sets new restrictions for inmates participating in a community confinement monitoring program for all Maine County jails. Efforts must be made to notify the victim before and after an inmate is granted an early release. An inmate's criminal history and whether that person would pose a risk to the community must also be considered.
And I think a lot of sheriffs are kind of reluctant to release DV cases anyway. So I think this is really a good bill to support.
As for Nicole, she lives in constant fear her abuser will try to harm her again or her daughters. But she has a little more peace of mind thanks to the new law.
If they are aware of when their abuser comes out of jail or prison, then they can make arrangements to be safe.
And a chance to stay alive. Vivian Lee, News Center, Maine.
We'll have more information on the new law, plus resources and support for domestic violence survivors on our website and our News Center Maine app.